T. Muralidharan, Chairman, TMI Group. Please put your hands together as I speak few words about him. An eternal optimist, building sustainable business institutions that are also socially relevant in his life missions, connecting education to employment and trying to impact 1 million lives in life work. Thank you so much for joining with us, sir.
Very much. One of my good friends here on the dais, one of my friends here. I have a legacy. Most of the time when I come in to give a talk, 50% of people agree, 50% of people totally disagree with what I say. So I think it's a good start point of waking up people in slumber. My theme is today what Malcolm mentioned about grandfather. He talked about how the world is changing. I'm going to talk about how your grandson's world is going to look like. I think that's more important. So we have a wide footprint. And therefore, some of the things I'm going to talk about is not from the experience, but from the data which is coming from here. So the second important point I'm going to talk about today is how to describe your experience from data. Your experience actually gives you a wrong perception of data. So very clearly, by presenting today, you will realize how your data is going to tell you something very different from what you think is happening. On an average, 500,000 people come into TM jobs, for training, CSR projects. So we have a very great exposure or understanding of this Gen Z, which is now we talk about. I think very few of us understand Gen Z. Malcolm talked a little bit, and other Ramraji also talked about it. The Gen Z is completely different, and if you want to know what your Gen Z is, talk to your son or daughter. That's the easiest way to understand how different they are from us. And they are not only transactional, they are very aspirational. They want to be Bill Gates, they want to be Sundar Pichai, so they have all the ambition in the world. And especially I'm talking about India. I don't talk about the world because my exposure there is limited. But in India, especially in Hyderabad, things have transformed so much in the younger generation. And we get shocked. And I'll give you one example. Once I was asking a young person, why are you not applying for a job? There are so many jobs, companies are saying which are vacancies. Why are you not applying for a job? He said, Mr. Muralidharan, what will I do? I'll apply for a job, I'll struggle, get a job, and 3 months later, I lose my job. The number one problem in frontline workforce today is attrition. Attrition in the private sector, especially in the largest number of people are joining, talking about graduates, is anywhere between 50% and 60%. And what we call infant attrition. Infant attrition is the number of people who leave in the first 6 months. We leave in some companies is as high as 90% of the people are leaving in 6 months. So this is a new world evolving where an individual, he comes and asks me, so what will I do? I'll go there, join the company, will sack me, and I'm worse off than what I was. Earlier I was hoping I'll get a job. Now I got a job and I got sacked. So this is the new reality developing in the Indian sector. I'll show you some data. So the young today are thinking very differently. Please acknowledge this. And our 3 businesses, we are in consulting, technology and solutions. We hire, we train, we skill. You name it, we are only company, or group company, 3 group companies work from end to end. From mobilization to branding to everything we do on talent supply chain. So let's talk about the topic of today. We want to talk about how the workplace is changing, how the work is changing. Everything is changing around us except us. We have to change. I think we are the last in the list of people to change. Okay, let me give you some data. In 2030, according to these statistics, only small portion, less than 9% of the people will be full-time, on-the-job employees in US. In India, we are already seeing the transition. Now, what does it mean? Your largest number of employees in your company will not be full-time employees, but they will not be sitting in the office. They will be working somewhere else. They will not be full-time gig workers. We'll show you some statistics on how gig workers are growing, how part-time workers are growing. HR has been designed to manage full-time employees at work. That's been the design for the last 25 years. Now we're changing that, but still we're not changing fast enough. 57% of the people surveyed are scared about holding their job. That's a concern today. They want government to get involved, they want private sector to get involved. And 66, nobody now wants a long-term stable job concept. That concept is completely gone. So all the statistics are showing that there is a transition happening on the ground. And let's talk about 5 trends about India, which very typically many people have perceptions about India. And all this data is showing exactly opposite counter to. The first one is more women are getting educated but not looking for jobs. Like what is called labor force participation rate. Latest reporting said that women are still not looking for jobs after getting educated. In the colleges, 50% of the people in the colleges are women. But when you come to workforce, a very small proportion of them are looking for jobs. So that's the first trend which we need to ask. Why women are not looking for jobs? What's wrong with our jobs? The second, real wages in organized workforce. Real wages has declined or stagnant in India. This is a very serious problem. It's an elephant in the room in frontline workforce. I keep saying it in many forums. The biggest problem is our wages are disproportionate to the reality on the ground. There's a huge gap between CEO salary. I think we have already talked about CEOs get maybe 150 times a frontline workforce salary. In one of the sectors where we work in, salary has gone up in the last 10 years of the frontline workforce by 10%. These are officers. They are not blue-collar workers, the white-collar workers. Salary has gone up by 10% in 10 years when the inflation has been 50%. So salary is one of the biggest problems in the organized sector. Population control. Many people think India is going to grow. The fertility rate is falling dramatically across all religious groups, and we are not going to see this so-called youth generation continuing for long. Our demographic dividend is going to stay for a very short window, and thereafter we are going to be like China, aging workforce. So whatever we are going to do as a country, we have to do it now. This is the serious worry. There are more young. The unemployment rate and people sitting at home is anywhere between 20 to 40% of the people between 22 to 32. They are sitting at home. They're neither working. They're not in campuses. This is very typical in Telangana. The unemployment rate among the younger age group is much higher. When people talk about average unemployment rate, it's over between the age of 15 to 64. But that data, if you split it down to a smaller, younger age group, unemployment rates are very high. Or people are not looking for jobs. So the income inequality within the organizations are growing. So these put together, these are all HR problems. I'm just focusing on problems of HR. We have to ask a very simple question. When we ask a frontline workforce, I ask HR people, why are you not increasing your salary? Oh, his productivity is low. He's not giving you 5 times whatever you want. Then can I ask the same question about your CXOs? Are they giving 5 times the salary that you pay? How much is the direct contribution to the outcome? So somewhere we have brought all the HR is using all the logic to sustain and explain high salaries to themselves and people above them. But we are not worried about the frontline workforce. The salaries are really dropping. So this is, of course, everybody talks about full-time to flexibility. It's a reality in our company now. When we shifted our office from we are a big office of 6 floors, we go to a smaller workforce. Only 3 days a week people are expected to come. We design capacity for 3 days a week. And 2 days a week they are expected to work from home. I have to worry about how am I going to manage these guys working from home? In the office, my philosophy was swipe a card. I want to know what time you came, what time you left. I hope you did some work. That story you're not going to fly when you're sitting at home. So how are you going to manage a flexible workforce? And the gig economy, I think you must look at the data which has recently come out from Niti Aayog. 7.7 million people are already gig workforce, and it's going to increase to 24 million. Do you know how many people are working in the corporate organized sector, in the private sector? It's about 30 million currently. So you are talking about equivalent size of people will be gig workforce. It will not be in your control. You don't know how to manage them. How many of us in HR can stand up and say, I know how to hire workers, I know how to engage them, how to get work out of them. We don't know. Even I don't know. We are struggling to figure out. We work with Zapto now, trying to figure out how this workforce works. So we need to know a lot more gig workforce that is going to be part of HR job. Remote work is a norm, we agree, and automation. I'm going to talk about automation. How automation is going to change dramatically our workforce. The most important thing in these 3 things we have to see is the tenure. I think the speaker, Dr. Reddy, spoke about we need to work inclusive workforce, CEOs to engage. How do you engage with people when employees come there with an intention of staying for 2 years? How do you engage with the employees whose biodata is very active in job board all the time, looking for a job, they're attending interviews? The landscape of employees' mindset towards tenure has fallen dramatically. In our company, we have a policy asking employees to sign a 2-year commitment, and people are refusing to sign a 2-year commitment to come and work with us. Right? When I joined my first job at multinational, we all thought we'd retire there. That concept is gone. It's gone. Just 2 years. Now, if 2 years somebody is going to stay with me, how do I extract work from them? That's the problem. To measure, how do you monitor, how do you get value for my money? Now, we are talking about transactionalism here. So that's the reality for this workforce. In other words, I want to present one theory that first 5 years, employees have no connection with you. They're not engaged. You need to engage and get them interested in succeeding. They must succeed in the job. After 5 years, you can bring in a lot of HR concepts. First 5 years is all about performance, promotion, increase in salary, increase in incentive. That's what people want. So we need to divide the workforce into people less than 5 years and above 5 years, and we need to have different HR strategies for both. The compensation is also going to change. I'm just recommending to one of our clients why we should do annual performance review. What's the sanctity of that? Who wrote that law? Because your annual reports are annual, companies do annual reports, so you do annually. In many of the countries in the world, people get paid weekly wages. In India, if somebody told you that you have to pay weekly wages, you'll jump off. Right? We are struggling with a monthly wage bill. We are struggling with so much of compliance, right? But why should you pay annual? Why should you have annual performance review? Why can't you pay salaries based on performance, based on projects? How do you pay on 6 monthly basis? In one of the clients, we are telling, why don't you look at 6 month compensation increase, right? Because all these concepts were written in 1970s in the old model of performance management system, and we got stuck in the past. This is the data I talked about. Compensation has remained stagnant. This is more than 10 million data points we took across the country. We studied across many sectors. We found that 50% of the sectors' salaries remain constant or declined with time, decline workforce. Now, let's talk about automation. India is going to be the worst hit in automation. I think many of us don't know this. If you look at the kind of jobs we do, historically automation came in factories and machine took over men's job because they did repetitive tasking they did. The second one type of jobs were coming were basically data management jobs. A lot of Indians are working in back office data management job, pulling data from one to another, pasting it, Excel worksheet, all are going, and robotic process automation is taking away their jobs. But the third jobs are the biggest challenge for India. That is rule-based decision making. Most of the middle management supervisors make decisions on rule-based. If the rule can be, ChatGPT can do the rule making, rule observation, rule measurement, rule improvement better than any of us can do. So then you are looking at a middle layer going for a toss because rule-based decision making is not going to be in the future. So ultimately, we are going to talk about people performance. Your job, HR job will change to people performance. It is not, HR people think performance is a process. It's a system. A system means there are many things have to happen. The performance has to happen. That is what it is. It's an integrated system. You have to hire right, train right, induct them right, you have to manage them right, measure them right, supervise them right. Many things you have to do. So far, performance is handed over to the business team. HR is not responsible for performance. HR is normally managing performance through a system, through a platform, some data. But now, the question will be, what are you going to do in HR to manage people performance? How do you have an integrated system that will generate performance with people with low engagement as quickly as possible so that I get my money's worth, I get the return on my investment. I'm just going to show you 4 or 5 blind spots to know how I discovered it last 2 years. So in all my 30 years, I didn't know this. First part, the most important part is data. The conventional way of thinking on your left is what you have to ditch completely, and you've got to pick up some new techniques and methodology. First, the transactional nature has to be recognized. I want to strongly emphasize that. Does not mean we have to be rude to people, we have to be very mercenary with people. No, the transactional nature is on both sides. Other parties coming with transactional mindset, I also want a transactional mindset. How do you make sense of it? How do you make a system out of this? This is the question. The last 2 points, 3-4 slides are only on analytics. The first one is, traditionally people always talk about a normal curve. They ask an HR guy, I will pit performance people into a normal curve. It's the biggest bullshit. There's no normal curve in performance anymore. You see the data here, which is like live data of about 6,000 people. There's no normal curve operating anymore. Right? Normal curve is based on employees who stay for 10 years. In a transactional model, employees are not distributed in a normal curve. This is the live data of a full population. We use a lot of what we call transactional. When you look at sample data assumes there is a population which is normal. Therefore, you make a lot of conjectures and inferences. But if the population is not normal, all your analytics will come to change. This is a distribution of employee performance with resiliency. This is called TMI plot. We applied for a patent for this new concept. This drills down the data up to an individual level among all the employees. You can plot each dot is an employee. On the x-axis is how long the employee stayed with you. On the y-axis is what is the average performance he delivered for you. Now you can see the distribution of data. There are some employees who are high performers right from the beginning. There are some employees who are very lousy performers right after 10 months and 12 months. So basically, employees are distributed widely on performance. So the biggest challenge in performance management is performance dispersion. How do you reduce the dispersion? Right. The second interesting data which you see here is we try to ask top performers become top performers from the beginning, or bottom performers from the beginning. This is the data. The graph shows that people get stuck at various levels. They stay in what we call performance orbits. Some people are low performance orbit, some people are high performance orbit. And if you want to move from people from one performance orbit to another, you need to put a lot of strategies and energy into that. And this is a very important question. The first time we calculated what is the money companies are losing due to underperformances. So we took a workforce of about 8,000 people, collected their data. We found out that 40 crores or 38% of the salary they paid to employees was spent on or wasted on underperformance. Nobody has ever talked about this data. We only talk about attrition index. We don't talk about financial data. The moment you put financial data, HR's performance is measured by how do I reduce this 38% to 22%. I want my underperformance to come down from 38% to 22%. What are you going to do? So 3 points, closing sentence I'm going to make. One is on, HR is more concerned about outcomes. The world of outcomes has to go backwards into daily outputs and daily outputs to inputs. So the data analytics is moving down from outcomes. Take for example, how did you perform last month? How did the team perform on last quarter? This is the kind of questions we ask. This market is changing dramatically to how did you perform yesterday? What is the performance distribution? So the measurements are moving from outcomes to output. That's the first thing you need to know. So we need to have daily measurement model in a transactional system. Like a factory worker, every day they know how much output has come from the plant, how much each of them have contributed. We are going to go into an era of measurement. So 3-4 points for HR, which is human capital management. One, flexibility is going to be the reality. We have to be flexible, HR has to be flexible, employees have to be flexible, systems have to be flexible, because employees come with a flexibility mindset. They want flexibility. Work, type of work they do, what they do, when they do. Second is, we don't want performance measurement, we want predictability. We are moving into an era, the next 10 years, everybody is going to ask statistical models, analytical model. Tell me, what will be, if I hire this guy, where will he go? What's his future? Will he make money for me? So predictability of attrition, already many companies are doing predictive models on attrition, but very few are doing predictability models on performance, right? And modeling of performance, it's not enough to say, I head up a system without modeling. How are they related? What are the cause and effect? Which is the cause? Which is the effect in performance? These are questions we need to ask. So the CEO's perspective is going to change. I myself run a company, large number of employees. I keep asking, it's not enough. You need to change your questioning. CEOs are not going to ask what is happening today to why is it happening and what is going to happen tomorrow. The questions are changing as we move. Today we are talking about the second lot. Third lot will come the next 10 years. Right? It's no longer why is it happening, what will happen tomorrow. So this is what I want to leave in conclusion. 3 things you have to carry. First message, you have to own performance. You cannot say business is responsible for performance. I will hire, I will train, I'll give it to them. No, you have to co-own. You have to design, you have to understand performance. Where does it come from? What is the interrelationship, cause and effect relationship? You have to become the expert on people performance. Second, analytics is the future. Understand data. Now, recently we are doing a study. There are at least 23 mistakes people do when they analyze data. Some of them are defects. Some of them are called 3 different types. All of them put together. One is called Simpson paradox. I want to tell you a little bit about it. What Simpson paradox says, if you look at data at one level, it tells you something. You go next level, it tells you something else. You go to third level, it tells something else. So data itself can deceive you if you don't able to understand what layer you have to go to analyze the data. The last, of course, is the alternate forms of employment. This permanent full-time employees coming to work, the era is ended. We're going to see in our company only 30% of our workforce is now full-time and coming to work. 70% are outside. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your thought-provoking session.